everyone, and thanks for joining us today. It's my pleasure to welcome back four of the most senior industry thought leaders. We've got Scott, Al, Steve, and Mark. And I don't think that we need any other introduction in that. So with that, I'll kind of just turn it over to asking the first question that we have. And this one is asked by Cal. And Cal asks, I am currently a PMP as well as an ACP. What should I look at from a certification perspective? How about we turn that over to you, Mark?
Oh, hello, everyone. Great question, and we hear it quite a bit. If you're an ACP, then you already have a really good understanding of the wide variety of agile practices. The ACP is a very worthwhile and credible certification. What it doesn't teach you about is maybe as many practices as we have within the DA toolkit, first of all, and secondly, about what the toolkit is and how do you use guided continuous improvement to improve your way of working. So a natural progression from an ACP is to go directly to the DA Senior Scrum Master, which is a really advanced Scrum Master certification that teaches you sort of next level. That teaches you how to use Scrum and other agile techniques like Lean, etc., to deliver in more complex situations, sets of teams, those kinds of things. So definitely Senior Scrum Master would be the answer. And one thing I would say, though, is that if you go to the DA Senior Scrum Master class, there is an assumption that you know kind of what DA is, that you know about the toolkit, because you may have come from the DA Scrum Master class where you are introduced to DA. So if you're going to go from an ACP to a Senior Scrum Master class, we would recommend get your hands on the Choose Your WOW book, do a bit of review about what DA is before attending the class.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. And we have another question on certification. And Al, this one will go to you. This is from Christoph. When can we expect availability of the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant course?
Okay. Well, I know we're running our final beta of it in early March. And then I think there'll be a slight delay as we take feedback from that and do some improvements. This is a finished workshop in the sense that we've already run an alpha on it earlier, used that working with a lot of consultants. So I'm not the one who makes these decisions, but my guessing, and maybe Mark or Scott would know better, is kind of generally available, I would hope, by end of March, early April. How you get into that alpha, if you have a request, you can send me a note, but I'm not the decider of that either, but I can pass it on. And you have to be qualified for it. So you have to have taken the DASSM to have done it.
Cool. Thanks, Al. Kirk asks, as a toolkit, how is DA different than Scrum or SAFe frameworks? And does DA depend on a framework or does it stand alone?
Go for it, Scott.
Okay, I was wondering. Anyways, yeah, so Disciplined Agile is a toolkit, and it actually sits on top of Scrum and Lean and Kanban and SAFe and many others. So what we do is we harvest strategies and practices and great ideas from a very wide range of sources, Agile, Lean, even some traditional sources, and we put them into context. So where the frameworks tend to tell you what to do and how to do it, which is a great start, the toolkit, the DA toolkit, instead tells you, here's the things you need to be thinking about. Here are the issues you need to consider. Here are some good options, and here are the trade-offs of those options. So that way you can choose your approach. You can choose your own way of working and do the best that you can in the situation that you face. And of course, learn and extend and improve upon your way of working. So we're not limited at all like some of the frameworks are. Instead, we're all about teaching you how to improve and to become a learning organization or a learning team.
Great.
I want to just inject something real quick to that.
Sure.
Because I hear, not in the question, but I hear online a lot of confusion. It feels sometimes to people that, oh, so I'm kind of left on my own and I got to figure all this out. And the answer is, you can figure things out, like Scott was just describing, but there are also ways to use the toolkit as a default. So if you want to get something more set quicker with less input, that's always possible. So it's not like you're given some assembly required type thing. You have that ability to customize what fits for you. And you also have the ability to take defaults, because we live on top of things that are defaulted and preset. We just don't recommend doing that, as a rote way of going forward.
And I want to add to that, thanks Al for bringing that up, because that is very common, is that people look at the hundreds of strategies in the toolkit. We've got something like 44 different requirements modeling techniques that you can draw from as an example. And people say, oh, this is complicated and I don't know how to start. It's easy. If you start with Scrum, Scrum is a subset of DA. We just make it, work end to end so much. And DA comes out of the box with not just one approach, Scrum, but 6. Think of those as starter recipes. So pick one of the 6 and we give you guidance as to whether you should do Scrum or Lean or continuous delivery or exploratory. Start with that. And it doesn't have to be difficult. So you don't have to start from scratch.
So this next question is for Steve. So Steve, as the non-DA PMI person that is joining us today, what are your thoughts on the value of Disciplined Agile, the direction Disciplined Agile is going in comparison to other approaches and other things that just in your experience you've seen or experienced?
Great question, because I've been talking about this with Al for the last, I don't know how many months. And we have one point of resonance of a way of thinking that is very, very similar, which is based on patterns, pattern thinking. And I think this turns out in DA, in the choice of the way of working, because every company is unique. Every situation has its own context. So you need to find something that makes sense in that context. And I think that's the distinguishing feature between DA and the other approaches, where all others are more or less very prescriptive. They are very well-defined guides, frameworks, and deviation from those is always considered in some sort of negative way. And this, I think, is a very, very positive evolution in this whole landscape. As a matter of fact, even my own approach, TameFlow, has that flavor, and I think this is why with Al we can reason about these problems from like the same conceptual viewpoint of how these things work, even though we have different strengths and weaknesses, and that's where we can work together.
Yeah, and it's been just great seeing just the collaboration that you've been doing with Al and Al's Alpha Group. Yeah, that's been just super positive. Okay, our next question, which is asked by Javon, he is asking, how many current job recs in LinkedIn or Indeed are requiring a DA certification? Mark, or
yeah, I'll start with it.
Yeah, I'll put that over to Mark.
Okay, more and more every day. So we there's an awareness issue in that, but prior to PMI, there's this little Canadian company promoting DA, and by the way, spending a lot of our time actually in the trenches doing consulting, limiting our cycles to do marketing. People found out about DA from Scott and I speaking at conferences, so the word didn't get out. But now that we're part of PMI, 300 chapters around the world, 1 million members, everybody's asking about it. And when they see that the certification program that we have is agnostic, it's credible, it's rigorous, similar to the PMI existing certifications, they realize that, hey, that's the kind of Scrum Master I want on my team. I want somebody who understands, as an example, risk management, governance, and doesn't think that's a bad word, although it should be lean governance. They're looking for this. I was talking to a major aerospace company that I won't mention. Their PMO is extremely excited about DA because their agile teams have not been rigorous. They have not been disciplined. and they've trusted them with mission critical investments, and things have gone bad. So people see that there is this rigorous certification around Agile. We're finding that people are actually starting to ask for DA specific, Agile learning. In fact, I just saw that I was using it in a presentation recently in Calgary. They were looking for a senior Scrum Master. That was what they were looking for, that understood disciplined Agile. So it's getting
well, anybody that wants to apply for that job, we offer the DASM and the DASSM courses pretty much every week or every other week. Thanks, Mark. So the next question is for Al, and it is, if Disciplined Agile isn't dependent on Scrum, can DA use just parts of Scrum despite Scrum Guide's cautions against this?
Yeah, what we want to look at is, why does Scrum say you have to use all of it and you can't change it? And the reason is they have values that they presume you have. And the second one is they have practices which they say you must do. And what's missing are two things that DA provides. One is, what is the intention? In other words, why do you have a daily stand-up? What is the intention of a sprint, an increment? Well, there are reasons you have that. And these are actually based on flow and lean and TOC and things of that nature. So when you have those present, which DA does provide both of those, both the theory and the intention, then you cannot willy-nilly change something. In other words, if you're having troubles with sprints, you can't just say, well, we're going to stop doing sprints and we'll do Kanban, which, by the way, has you doing neither Scrum nor Kanban. Instead, we would say, well, what is the intention of time boxing, of having a sprint? There are a lot of intentions. You have a horizon you work for. It tells you now need to be doing smaller stories so they fit in the sprint. You want a swarm, so you can get things done. So there are all these intentions. And what DA does, it says, well, okay, we have this intention. Here are half a dozen or more different ways of meeting that intention that fits your context. So by providing that theory and options to still meet the objective of the practice, you don't weaken anything. In fact, you make it more fit for purpose. I think that makes it simpler to use Scrum. I think Scrum with options via DA is simpler because of the fit for purpose aspect of it. And just having a simple, this is one size fits all, ignores the fact it might be a simple description, but it's ignoring how people interact with it. I like to use the metaphor, if you're talking about a self-propelled vehicle, what's the simplest self-propelled vehicle? You could say, well, a unicycle, it's very easy to understand. You got pedals and you got one wheel, and there are otherwise no components. Simple to understand, difficult to master. So there's this difference between fit for purpose as easy and easy or simple based on the definition. So that's, again, going back to what Mark said, by unfolding things in an easy way, fit for purpose is really the critical piece.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in on that. The Scrum folks have been spinning that story for decades now, and it's observably not true. It just isn't true. I invite people to think for themselves. So for example, and here's how you know it's not true. Ask yourself, could your team benefit from doing a daily Scrum meeting, a daily stand-up, daily coordination meeting, whatever you want to call it? Could you possibly benefit? Can you imagine a scenario where a team could benefit from doing that and doing nothing else in Scrum? If the answer is yes, then clearly the answer is you don't need all the Scrum. So think for yourself. Just stop and think. Just stop and think.
That could be your tagline, Scott. I like that.
And I love this question, and I love Al's comments and Scott's comments. And I want to take Scott's and turn it upside down. In our intro book, which is not 400 pages, it's a small read.
It's not as
Scott and I tell it's a lot smaller. Scott and I tell a fictional case study, but we've seen it over and over again, where a team starts with Scrum and they start to lean out the process and adopt CI/CD and move much more towards continuous delivery and much more lean. And I'll give you a concrete example. I was in London, in Soho, visiting the ThoughtWorks studio by invitation, and got to see how they do their Agile. And here you see people gathered around a table, millennials with their laptops and their water bottles and their stuffed animals, having a great time producing value. They're not goofing off. They're extremely productive. They pair all day long. They don't even call it pairing. It's just the way they work. The business is right there at the table with them. Now ask yourself, does that team needs to get up every morning, stand up around a Jira board or whatever, and talk about what they did yesterday? They know what they did yesterday. They were working together, talking to each other all day long. They don't need a daily stand-up meeting. So what a team like that will do is take back the 15 minutes and it adds up, and get back to producing value. And the one more I'll say is retrospective. Retrospectives are awesome, love them. But I sometimes joke about this. Imagine a team sitting around a table said, oh, you know what, this document we're doing, nobody's reading it. It's a piece of garbage. Let's not do this anymore. And then the Scrum Master goes, wait a second, we don't talk about process improvement right now. We have a meeting next Friday called the retrospective, and I'll take that down and we'll bring it up next Friday. So keep doing that bad thing right now, and we'll fix the process next Friday. I'm ridiculous, right? A team would just say, stop doing this, start doing that. Let's start now and see how that works. And now you've freed up an hour from a retrospective. Not saying it's wrong, but you have options. Get out of methods jail and do what makes sense for you.
And go back to Scott's tagline, think for yourself.
Do what makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easy.
So the next question is from Victor. What resources do chapters have to promote DA in the region? For example, training to elected officials, access to presentations, industry partners, etc. Mark, or maybe Mark, I know you've worked with the Champion program quite a bit.
So was the question, what access to materials to Champions have?
What resources do chapters have to promote DA?
So we started the program called the DA Champions in the chapters, and we have something like 280, 290 volunteers. Thank you very much. They're signed up to spread the word about what DA is to their membership. So Scott and I and Al, et cetera, will provide presentations that they can make to their membership and other kinds of collateral. And what we want the chapter champions to do is to encourage learning events and opportunities for the chapters to understand what DA is all about. Now, we created the program last year, but to be honest, we haven't been very good with the follow-up. And we're going to fix that. We're establishing a channel for the champions to collaborate and have that engagement with us. And we're actually in the process of hiring somebody who's full-time dedicated to working with the chapter champions. So more on that to come very soon. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. And boy, I can't believe we're already 20 minutes into this. So I'm going to say, let's go to the lightning round. So lightning round. Let's see. Calvin asks, when will there be increased marketing for Disciplined Agile? In my country, there's still little to no awareness.
Quick answer is very soon. We actually talked, I just got out of a meeting. Scott and I were in a meeting on that about a half hour ago. We are ramping up our marketing efforts. I'll leave it at that. And by the way, it will be geographically based. So if you're in a different country, different languages, all that is coming.
Great. Scott, Ravneet asks, hi, what industry tools allow the customization of way of working? Any recommendations?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually have something called the DA browser, which is available on PMI.org to members, and which allows you to browse and to look at most of the details in the Choose Your Well book. Actually, we will hopefully soon be releasing a profiling tool, which allows you to pick and choose and then publish your choices, because different teams work in different ways. So you need to be able to choose your wow.
Awesome. Steve Minton asks, where does TameFlow stand with respect to DA Flex?
Well, very good question. So I've been talking about this again with Al and several times, and I think the distinction here is that DA Flex is something that even given the nature and the background with the PMI, you want to address the industry at large. So it's about mass and volume. You want to have as many companies as possible learning how to think in terms of DA, adopt their way of working, and of course improve. But there might be instances where the specificity of TameFlow. Remember, I have been focusing like a maniac on hyper performance. So where you need that extra kick, that extra performance, what we do with TameFlow can very well coexist and enhance what DA is doing. So there might be cases which are not everyday cases, but where that way of acting is useful. For example, companies going through mergers and acquisitions. If you merge two companies that have completely different ways of working, well, no, they will be in a situation of conflict. And one part of TameFlow is like creating unity of purpose, so we overcome those situations. Or another case could be when the company is facing extreme conditions, like change management in volumes that ordinary methods will not be able to handle. So in those cases where there is an excessive challenge of some kind, that's where I think TameFlow can come in and play well, like a booster. I often say it's like a car tuner. In a way, we take the Mercedes and we are the AMG and we just make it perform like a Porsche. That's the kind of positioning I like to frame it like.
Great, thanks. Mark, Christian asks, Mark, you mentioned that PMI is going to be doing DA micro certifications this year. Can you please provide a little more information about it?
Sure. We're going to be rolling out our first micro certification, looks like April, and several more will be rolling out throughout the year. I think of these as little modules, e-learning modules to supplement other things. And by the way, to provide guidance in the process blades outside of IT. So marketing, finance, procurement, vendor management, people operations, those kinds of things. It could also be supplemental content to our existing certifications. As an example, people are asking us constantly about agile metrics. I want to implement a metrics program for my teams, for my organization, and how do you do that? Now, by the way, metrics is a minefield. Metrics typically can be gamed, so you got to be really careful how you do it, and you should be designing metrics. So I was turning it to a long answer, but metrics is something that people have been asking for, so there's a high probability you might see a micro certification coming out on agile metrics and other certifications this year, but they're not full-blown certifications. They're like micro credentials, if you will.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. Let's see. Marcelo asks, any plans to expand the number of educational partners offering DA training? It is still limited in many geographies. I'm not sure, Mark or Scott, that might.
It's probably in my domain.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something like 300 authorized training partners for PMI around the world. A very small subset of those are actually do training on DA, but any authorized training partner can run DA courses. So if you find one in your country, contact them and say, I would like a course. They're authorized to teach a course, but they need instructors. That's when they might call Joshua and say, because Joshua's got instructors. So certainly we are hearing from a lot of ATPs. They're doing PMP prep training, and they want to start to do DA training. But I will say, as a pitch for Joshua, when you're looking for instructors, you're best served by ones that have actually done it. Okay, so Joshua's team, as an example, are consultants first, trainers second, or as it's probably 50-50. So there's some great instructors out there, and it's growing every day. And by the way, nowadays it's virtual. So if you're in Germany, you could take a North American course.
That's a great point. And we offer lots of different times. So we do try and hit times that aren't necessarily the best for us as instructors. Oftentimes I'm the one who takes those odd times for, Eastern, for somebody who's based in the Eastern time zone. So yeah, we have lots of, and in addition to some of the alternative times, we also offer training on weekends, and we'll be doing some of the kind of, split formats where it'll be 4 days, 4 half days versus, 2 full days. Gail asks, are there plans to expand the DA offering to address people issues such as diversity and inclusion, trust, psychological safety, and others? I only see basic information.
Scott.
Yes. So there's we have an effort underway right now, being led by one of the people on my IP team. So we'll start to see more. If you notice in the new diagram, the foundation layer has some people stuff, and we're going to be expanding there. But there's also as far as diversity and inclusion goes, that's part of the mindset. It's also part of our grow team members process goal, our form team process goal, the people management process blades. So it's definitely in there. But like I said, we are purposely going to be focusing more on those very issues this coming year.
Cool, thanks. Let's see. Tom asks, I like to get facts, data, experiences telling me the qualities and cost effectiveness of agile methods. Is there a link that can help me understand DA?
Oh yeah, there's lots of links. You can Google it. Disciplined Agile is one thing, but if you go to PMI.org/disciplined-agile, that is so there's a lot of good content there. And by the way, we're going to add a whole bunch more content. Scott is heading up an initiative to create a much richer DA website. In terms of facts for the effectiveness of Agile, and in particular Disciplined Agile, I would encourage you to go to the very same website, PMI.org/disciplined-agile. Under there's a menu called resources, and then a menu item called success stories. I ask you to invest 15 minutes over a coffee to watch 3 video testimonials by CXOs that have implemented DA across their organizations. Listen to their stories, because it's not just about IT, it's about Agile in marketing and Agile in finance. And these are folks who've done it, and it's changed their organizations. So if you want, it's really hard to say 25% productivity improvement. I look at those kinds of metrics with a great deal of skepticism, but listen, because anybody who's done it properly, it's self-evident. You don't need a number to tell you how effective DA can be. So listen to the success stories.
Great. We are unfortunately out of time. Once again, it's amazing how quick the time passes. There are still a number of questions, so we will endeavor to try and get answers posted for those. Once again, I want to thank Scott, Al, Steve, and Mark for coming again. Really appreciate it. And I see lots of things in the chat about how appreciative people are of you guys taking your time to do this. Yeah,
Joshua, let's do this again. It should be an hour. We're just getting wound up here.
I know, so yeah, we'll absolutely we'll get another one. We'll get an hour to be able to get through a lot of these questions. And yeah, some of the questions that we still have not gotten through require a little bit of time to answer. So we'll definitely need to expand this a bit. Let me go ahead and just pull up what we're going to be doing coming in February quickly. So although I host and definitely participate in these webinars, I haven't actually done one myself. And so I've had a number of requests if I can do one on how do you learn about Disciplined Agile. And so our theme for the month of February is going to be the Agile mindset. And I'm going to take the first of our February webinars and just cover a bit about the different offerings from a certification perspective and just other things that you can do to learn about DA and start raising your awareness and seeing the value that it provides. So yeah, please join me on next Wednesday, February 3rd. If you have any questions at all on any of this, again, please visit us at processmentors.com. And again, just some of the courses, the Disciplined Agile Scrum Master, Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master. These are just some of our upcoming course offerings that that we've already got scheduled, and we've got probably about a dozen more we're going to get going with. So with that being said, any closing words from our esteemed panelists?
I'll start. I've already talked too much, but I just want to endorse this course. If you want to learn about DA, you got 2 DA masters in this course. Glenn Little is one of just a few DA fellows in the world and used to work for us, actually. So highly recommend the course. And thank you for coming. Next.
Thanks, Mark. Scott?
Yeah, thank you for coming, and I'm looking forward to being here next time.
Awesome. Steve?
Well, I would invite all DA practitioners to take a look at TameFlow as well, of course. And what I said before about the collaboration is not only theoretical. We are already doing this with some DA partners. So the outcome of this synergy is becoming concrete and beneficial for all. So take a look at TameFlow.
Yeah, fantastic. And Al, your final thoughts?
Yeah, again, thanks for being here. But if you also want to just get a taste of things, join the Disciplined Agile user group on LinkedIn. I lurk there. You can ask me questions. I also am putting some materials up on the web that are kind of intended for self-study and provide some interesting concepts that are very powerful that I found to be incredibly useful, but are not in the common frameworks for a variety of reasons. So that's a way to get a taste and learn no matter how far you go.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to all of you. Thanks for everybody in attendance, and we will see you next week.